Okay, so if you're a student, especially in any kind of technical field, you absolutely know the feeling. You've got an impossible deadline, a bug you just cannot solve, and this overwhelming urge to just find an answer online. In this explainer, we're going to navigate that whole world of online assignment help and figure out what actually really works. I want you to picture this. It's practically 3 a.m. Your assignment is due in just a few hours. The code? It compiles, but the output is completely wrong. And the error messages? They make absolutely no sense. You are exhausted and you are totally, completely stuck. We've all been there. And look, this isn't some kind of personal failure. It's basically a rite of passage in any demanding course. The author calls this the 3 a.m. problem. You know, that moment of sheer desperation when you will take any help you can possibly get. Because, let's be real, we all look for help online. So the real question isn't if we're searching, it's what happens when we type programming assignment help into Google? What are we getting back? Is it something that actually helps us learn, or is it just something that helps us survive the night? That search, it drops you right into what the author calls the help maze. This totally confusing collection of options, and every single one has its own promises and its own pitfalls. All right, so first step, you've got the big tutorial sites. They are packed with examples, and they're honestly great for learning basic syntax. You can kind of think of them as the dictionary for coding. But, and the author is super blunt about this, a dictionary isn't going to help you write a novel. When you're debugging a really unique, complex problem under a deadline, these sites are basically useless. Okay, so next, you find yourself in the Q&A forums. These are kind of like the digital town squares where programmers get together to ask for and, offer up help. But here's the catch, right? These forums can be absolute gold mines, but only if you get lucky and someone else has already had your exact same problem and gotten a good answer. If not, well, you're pretty much just shouting into the void. And then you stumble down the most dangerous path in the whole maze, the services that promise to just do the work for you for a price. Yeah, the risk here is just massive. I mean, plagiarism detection tools are incredibly sophisticated these days, and trust me, professors have seen it all before. Submitting code that's way, way beyond your current skill level is a huge red flag for academic dishonesty. So, totally frustrated with all these options, the author decided to run a little experiment for a full semester, basically testing out different methods to see what actually helped them understand the material better. The first few weeks of this experiment, total frustration. We're talking getting downvoted on Stack Overflow, getting completely lost in YouTube tutorials. But then, things started to shift, especially with collaborative study groups, and it all led to a real breakthrough around week 12. And this was the huge turning point. The author found a resource that didn't just dump code on them, it explained the thought process for solving a similar problem. And here's the key part. By understanding the logic and then trying to code it from scratch, they didn't just get the assignment done, they actually learned the concept. So what did all this lead to? Well, it was this core insight for the entire piece. There is a massive difference between what feels like help in the moment and what actually helps you learn for the long haul. The author actually breaks it all down into these trade-offs. And you gotta notice, those cheating services have zero learning value and an extremely high risk. But on the other hand, the stuff that focuses on explaining the thinking, like worked examples or just going to office hours, they're rated highest for learning value with basically no risk at all. So let's break this down, because it's super important. That feeling of just copy-pasting code to get the assignment done, man, it feels so helpful in the moment. But what's actually helpful is struggling through the logic, understanding the why, and building real problem-solving skills. And this leads to a really simple but super powerful test for both your academic integrity and your own learning. Just ask yourself this. If you can say yes to that, you've actually learned it. If the answer's no, you've probably just borrowed a solution. Okay, so knowing all this is one thing, but actually doing it when a deadline's breathing down your neck, that's a whole different story. So the author proposes a system to do just that. So here's the system. And look, this is not about avoiding help. It's about using it the right way. First, you have to struggle with it on your own for a bit, to really prime your brain. Then, pinpoint your exact knowledge gap. Research that gap, not the whole solution. And then, this is the key, close the tab and implement it yourself. The real learning, it all happens in steps 4, 5, and 6. All right, let's go back to that moment. It's 3 a.m., the clock is ticking, you're exhausted, you need a way to make the right call right now. You just have to ask yourself these 3 simple questions. The first one helps you figure out what the real problem even is. But the second and third, they force you to face the trade-offs you're about to make. Are you making a choice to learn, or are you just trying to survive the night?
Because that choice, it has consequences that are way bigger than just this one assignment. It's really about the skills you're building, or, well, not building, for your future self.
This right here is the line you need to remember. Every concept you skip over now becomes a little crack in your foundation that just gets bigger over time. Those little gaps, they show up in later courses, they show up in job interviews, and they definitely show up on the job, where you can't just Google every single solution. So in the end, the real goal isn't just to find help, right? It's to build a system for learning how to help yourself. And the author leaves us with this final question to think about. What strategies are you building that don't just solve today's problem, but actually